Hello, class. This recorded lecture is on section 2.3. We're going to talk about a couple more methods of displaying data in a graphical form. And the first one that we're going to talk about is, I want to say in this day and age, this is a little archaic, but it's a classic way to display data. Especially if you're doing it by hand. It's called a stem and leaf plot. And you'll see it's going to generate kind of a horizontal bar graph when we actually show you what the display ends up being with regards to that. And it's a little bit annoying to do by hand, but let me kind of walk you through that process. And so the way the idea of a stem and leaf, if you think about kind of a tree, is that you have to pick what the stem is, and then you'll see how many leaves go off that stem. And sometimes it's difficult to decide what is the stem and what is the leaf. In this class, we will tell you what that is. We'll say generate a stem and leaf plot given these stems. So I don't think you're going to have to figure that out yourself in the homework per se. And so let me show you one example. And you're like, oh, look at all that data. And I'm like, yeah, that's a ton of data. But basically, we have 50 states here and the District of Columbia. And so basically, that is the percentage of population that age 65 or over, which I'm not in there yet. And basically, if you were asked to do a stem and leaf plot for this particular thing, the first thing you need to know is what is the stem. And so you would have to be given that. And so in this case, we're given the stem as the first digit in the number. So if you look at the number of, say, Alabama is 14.1, the stem is 14 and the leaf is 1. In Alaska, the stem is 8 and the leaf is 1, and so on and so forth, all the way down here. So it looks like we have stems ranging from the smallest of 8. And is there any 16s? I see a bunch of 15s. Here's a 16 here. A lot of old people in West Virginia. And so you go from, oh, there's a 17 somewhere. So where is the 17? In here somewhere, right? Here it is, Florida. Yeah, that makes sense. A lot of old people go retire in Florida, so that would be the highest. So basically, the strategy is you end up putting these leaves, and there was one that was 8.1, so the 1 is the leaf. For example, in the 10, there looks like there's 3 of them. And so you look for the numbers that have 10, and here's the 7 here, and for Colorado, and 5 for Texas, and it looks like there's 1 more. Oh, and Georgia is the 2. So you see we have the 7, the 2, and the 5. And then they're asking you to put it in sort of decreasing order, or excuse me, increasing order from smallest to largest. I've seen other applications where you don't do that, but unfortunately the homework is tied to the book. So when you put that in increasing order, you'll have to reorient it from smallest to largest. And so let me show you something that's kind of cool. So here I am going to pull up one of your homework assignments in this section. There's only 5 problems in section 2.3. As you can tell, I don't think it's as important as the other ones. But here, let's take a look at how to generate the stem and leaf plot given these categories. And so it says, do not separate the answers with commas when you type this in. But you see this little link here? Send data to the Excel spreadsheet. Use it every time you see it, in my humble opinion. And so let me show you how I would do this homework problem using the Excel spreadsheet. And what I'll do is click on that link, and up comes the spreadsheet. Let me see, make that a little bit bigger. There we go. So with regard to that, there is the data set. And the first thing that's really nice about a spreadsheet is it'll sort the data from smallest to largest. And that'll be super helpful when generating this crazy stem and leaf plot. So what you do is you take the data and highlight it. And you go to Data, tab up top, and you'll see in the middle it says Sort. And it's typically when you click Sort, you'll see that we're going to do first column. And we want to go from smallest to largest. That's most of the time the typical way of doing it, but there's a variety of other ways to do it as well. But we're going to go from smallest to largest. And so what this does is that when you generate the stem and leaf, it's going to be an increasing order from smallest to largest with regards to that. So the stem the stem is 4.8 to 5.2. So if you go over here, I'll just call this stem, and then this leaf. And so the stem's 4.8, 4.9, 5.0, 5.1, 5.2. Okay, and so what I would do then is look at the 4.8, and so it's these. And what I'd like to do is if you go back to home, I'm going to make them red so it's a little bit easier to see. And so the first leaf is a 1, second leaf's a 2, third leaf's a 5, fourth leaf's a 7, fifth leaf's an 8. And change that color back to normal. You don't have to color code it, but for me it helps. My eyes are getting a little bit bad the older you get, so it's easier to see. So this would be, there's 2 1s, there's a 6, an 8, and a 9. So now we'll do the 5s. It's quite a few of those. Oops, forgot to color code it. So there's a 2, I hit space 3, space 4, space 6, space 7, space 2 8s, and 2 9s. Just gonna make this column a little bit wider so it's the whole leaf. And obviously you can make these all different colors as well, so you don't have to change them back. I like red because that pops out of me. It's like there's 3 of these, so it'd be 1, 3, and 6, space in between. And the last one would be a 1, a 3, 4, and a 6. And you can see this kind of looks like a bar graph turned on their side, right? So what we called that the horizontal bar graph. And so back in the day before there was all these fancy computers, this was kind of a neat way to generate a quick and dirty bar graph with regards to that. And so that shows you how to do it on the spreadsheet. And I have to say the old book that we used a different program called WebAssign, and it didn't download the data directly. And sometimes it was a little tricky to get the data out of the homework assignment into a spreadsheet. So this is really cool. And I've noticed throughout all the sections, it gives you a lot of opportunities to download data. So I would highly, highly recommend that you get that free version from Microsoft for a student and start using it right away. So that's the stem and leaf plot. We are going to skip this thing called a dot plot, even more archaic way to display data. But the other one that we will be talking about is the time series plot. And this time series plot is where data obviously is with respect to time. And so time is always an independent variable. And so we put independent variables on the X or the horizontal axis, and then the output or whatever measurement we're doing, we'll put on the Y axis. I personally used this way of displaying data when I was making temperature measurements and on my products, where I would have from time t equals 0 to when we stopped the experiment, maybe every 10 minutes we would take a temperature measurement and we would just plot it for each one of the devices. So it would show us some interesting trends on things get hot really fast and then level off. Other components would heat up a lot slower, and you could see that with this trend. Here we have an example of a Dow Jones plot of each year and the value of the Dow Jones at the end of each year. And so you can see that there's definitely an upward trend with regard to that. The Dow Jones is now, I want to say over 30,000. I'd have to relook that up. So it's gone up quite a bit over the last several years as well. And again, personally, I find this to be a really good way to display data, especially if the data is dependent on time. So that's it for this section, and actually for all of chapter 2. We're going to skip the last section in this. And so that ends the lecture series for chapter 2.